Growing up as a British Muslim and someone interested in Islamic history, I want to find out where and when the first mosque in Britain was built and by whom.
Wow. So even in this area, there would have been indigenous British people that can...
Yeah, so in fact, all of the early imams of this mosque were all white British men.
So he not only was a great Muslim preacher and servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he was also doing a great humanitarian work for the sake of Allah.
And I want to know what led him to returning to establish Britain's first mosque. There's around 1,500 mosques in Britain, and as a British Muslim, I was interested to know how Islam arrived and spread. There's around 4 million Muslims in Britain today, and 1,700 mosques to serve the community.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
Growing up as a British Muslim and someone interested in Islamic history, I want to find out where and when the first mosque in Britain was built and by whom. So I searched the web, and it turns out that the first purpose-built mosque is in Woking, known as the Shah Jahan Mosque. I had no idea that this gorgeous mosque is just under an hour drive from me. So we decided to pay a visit and meet with Habib Mohammed, who manages the mosque and can give us some more insight about this historic building.
So the Shah Jahan Mosque is the first purpose-built mosque in Britain. It was built in the year 1889, so it's 134 years old. And it was built by a chap called Professor Leitner, who was a Hungarian Jew. He was a linguist who'd mastered 50 languages. So he's the person behind the building of the mosque. It was designed by a local Christian architect called William Chambers, and it was paid for by the Begum of Bhopal, Princess Shah Jahan. So it has a really interesting history with 3 individuals from 3 different backgrounds who had 3 different beliefs, all coming together and working together. So it sends out quite a strong message. And the mosque was built as a place of worship for students who were coming to study at the Oriental Institute, which was also founded by Professor Leitner, and it sat over on this side once upon a time. It's no longer there. So Abdullah Quilliam is probably the most famous British Muslim. He was given the title Sheikh al-Islam of Britain by Sultan Abdul Hamid II, who I believe was the last ruler of the Ottoman Empire. So he has this great title, and he was somebody who really done a lot of work for Islam, and really he's like a role model and a father figure for British Muslims. The Abdullah Quilliam Mosque in Liverpool, which was a house which was used for prayers, was the first mosque. The first purpose-built mosque is the Shah Jahan Mosque. So Abdullah Quilliam was quite heavily involved. He would visit the mosque here, he would deliver sermons, he would do the roles of the imam. I mean, in the early 1920s, there was 10,000 Muslims in Britain, and 1,000 of those were people that had converted to Islam.
Wow. So even in this area, there would have been indigenous British people that had converted?
Yeah, so in fact, all of the early imams of this mosque were all white British men.
There were many people that did become Muslims before Quilliam, but nobody rocked the boat except Quilliam, who was vocal, who was actually a visionary, and who literally, built the extension of the first mosque, and literally who was a practicing Muslim,
an active Muslim,
active Muslim. He was such a good orator and a speaker.
He taught Islam just through his actions, which again, when you learn it through that way, you realize it's all very logical and rational. A lot of the stuff that we practice just makes sense.
Yeah, he wasn't forced down your throat saying, "No, I'm going to do this, you're going to do that." One of the greatest things that he did is he opened an orphanage. So he not only was a great Muslim preacher and servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he was also doing a great humanitarian work for the sake of Allah.
This journey started off initially to discover Britain's first mosque, but led into a much more complex story about a Jew, a Christian, and a Muslim coming together to build the first purpose-built mosque, the Shah Jahan. That led us to learning about Abdullah Quilliam's mosque in Liverpool, and a man's story of healing and self-discovery through accepting Islam in Morocco in 1882. This journey isn't over, since Abdullah Quilliam's journey towards Islam began in Morocco, my father's homeland. And I want to know what led him to returning to establish Britain's first mosque.